Friends, today's gospel message is very familiar to most of us, and we may tend to overlook it in its very relevant message. When Jesus announced that the harvest is abundant but the laborers are few, he was not just speaking to his disciples 2,000 years ago. He is speaking to each and every one of us today. As baptized Christians, we have the same purpose: to bring the whole human race into friendship with God, to be conduits of God's grace to the world. 30 years ago, St. John Paul II, one of the most powerful evangelists of the 20th century, reflected in his apostolic exhortation entitled "The Lay Members of Christ's Faithful People" that, quote, "whole countries and nations where religion and the Christian life were formerly flourishing and capable of fostering a viable and working community of faith are now put to a hard test, and in some cases are even undergoing a radical transformation as a result of a constant spreading of an indifference of religion, of secularism, and atheism. This particularly concerns countries and nations of the so-called first world, in which economic well-being and consumerism inspires and sustains a life lived as if God did not exist." End quote. We see this in our own country, where, failing to give God his proper place, we see a rise in the number of people who claim to have no religious affiliation whatsoever. There can be no doubt that the Lord is calling all of us to work in his fields. He wants us to join in the work of evangelization. In the earliest days of the Christian movement, it was the moral goodness of the followers of Jesus that brought many to believe in the truth of Christianity. The church father Tertullian conveyed the wandering pagan reaction to the early church in his famous adage, quote, "How these Christians love one another," end quote. At a time when malformed infants were left outside to die, when the poor and the sick were neglected, and revenge to the point of murder was an acceptable action, early Christians cared for unwanted babies, took care of the sick and dying, and strove to forgive their persecutors. This peculiarly excessive form of moral decency convinced many people that there was something different about these disciples of Jesus. It compelled them to take a deeper look. Those around us should see that we are happy trying to live the Ten Commandments and the Beatitudes, that we rely on God and do not delude ourselves with the notion that we are self-reliant. That cry of the Son of God, lamenting that the harvest is plentiful but the laborers are few, is always relevant. That cry came from Christ's mouth for us to hear too. How have we responded to it up to now?